I'll go ahead and introduce the session, and then when Tara gets back on, we can go ahead and kick it back to her. But really, we're really excited to have you all here today. And the purpose of this meeting is really to kick off this partnership and provide an overview of the project vision. We'll share some work that we've done to date, and we'll also have the opportunity to hear from a great group of project partners, both on kind of what their hopes are for the project and opportunities moving forward. And then at the end, we'll review the timeline and different venues for participation. And so while we get started, we thought we would throw a few polls in throughout the session today to kind of make it a little bit more interactive. So the first polling question of our session today is, what category of organization best represents you or the agency you work for? And we're going to have Amanda put up that polling question. And so everyone can just take a minute to fill that out.
Wow, Christina, people are filling it out really fast. We're at almost everyone. So I'll give you another 20 seconds in case you need them. And then I'm going to end this poll. All right, I'm going to go ahead, end the poll, share the results. Can you see those results, Christina?
Yeah, so it looks like we have a lot of folks from 28% from state or federal public agencies, a lot of local public agency representation pretty closely tied with the private sector, NGO, community member, academia. So thanks so much for taking the time to join today. We really appreciate it. And we hope to have kind of collaboration and engagement with all different types of groups across the work that we're doing here today. So thanks for joining us.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop sharing that poll.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So really, as we frame the work that we're kicking off here today, the vision for this work is really to create an accessible open source water accounting platform that integrates data from a variety of sources and effectively communicates this information to support local, regional, state water management decisions. So the work that we're going to be talking about today really focuses on how we're coming together to collectively advance development of an open source accounting platform that can really help improve decision making moving forward. And we're just at this wonderful moment in time with the implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and kind of coming together with new influxes of data and the opportunity to ensure that that data is usable, kind of transferable across groups and really made available and used that ways that people can inform decision making moving forward. So this is kind of the vision very much is a collaborative kind of forward thinking vision that we're really going to be looking to different state and local and NGO partners and lots of different groups to really inform this vision as we move forward. We see this as a very iterative process. And so with that, what I was going to do for my portion of the presentation today is really share some of the work that we've done to date. I'll provide an overview of this work, and then I'll give a live demo of the platform as it was developed. And then I'll also at the end share a little bit about how we hope to continue to build out functionality and scale the platform moving forward. So I'll go ahead and get started with a little bit of background information. So in 2018, EDF worked with Rosedale Rio Bravo Water Storage District in Kern County to co-develop a water accounting and trading platform. And this screen grab just shows you a screen grab of the Rosedale accounting platform that's now in use. And the goal of the platform was really to enable water managers and farmers to develop more accurate water budgets, to facilitate water trading, and to help them better understand changes in pumping patterns, to better understand potential undesirable results and be able to proactively manage for those outcomes. And so in this work, we've had a number of really amazing partners. We've worked closely with, of course, Rosedale Rio Bravo, but also Sitka Technology Group, West Water Research, OpenET, and Olson Engineering. And as I provide a little bit of background information on the platform, I think it's really important to emphasize that this platform was really co-created with landowners and water managers in Rosedale. We hosted a series of workshops in 2018, including mock trading sessions. And we heard loud and clear from landowners that they really wanted something straightforward and easy to use. And this is what we kept top of mind as we developed the platform, throughout project implementation. And just in terms of kind of status of the project in Rosedale, the accounting portion of the project launched in March of last year, and the trading portion will come online when scarcity is demonstrated within the district, when the district deems that trading is needed for management moving forward. And by way of a couple of statistics, in 2020, the platform tracked over 120,000 acre feet of water usage across 674 billion accounts on just over 1,100 separate parcels. So just a bit of background in case you're not familiar with Rosedale, Rio Bravo. They're a water storage district. They're located in Kern County, which is west of Bakersfield, in the San Joaquin Valley, which is really the heart of groundwater overdraft. There is approximately 44,000 acres under management of mixed irrigated agricultural, industrial, and residential uses, and about half of the irrigated acreage is planted in permanent crops. And under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, they are designated as a critically overdrafted basin. So this effort is really an effort to develop an accounting and trading platform to help support their goals in working towards sustainable groundwater management. And so this graphic shows the kind of the foundation, the core components of the water accounting and trading platform. And I think it's also important to note that this iteration of the platform that I'm going to be showcasing today really is tailored to Rosedale, Rio Bravo. So there's no doubt that in tailoring or kind of scaling the platform to different geographies, you'll need to really think about the local context and how the platform might need to be adapted to, consider different hydrogeological conditions, management needs, data availability, and preferences. And I think it's also fair to say that in starting this pilot project, Rosedale was maybe a less complex case than some of the other districts or GSAs that exist within California. But we're really excited to be building out some of the functionality in complexity that the platform is able to account for as we move forward. But nonetheless, we wanted to give you a demo today to kind of give you a better understanding of what the platform offers. And hopefully we'll be working with many of you on the call today to kind of guide how we build out the platform moving forward. So with that, at the core of the platform is really the accounting functionality. And the accounting portion of the platform allows landowners and water district staff to track their annual water allocations and current water usage in near real time. It basically lets landowners and district managers log on and kind of check their water account like they would a checking account. And this is really the core of the platform, and it's needed to support lots of different management decisions. You'll see trading on here, which is an additional feature of the platform, but you can have trading without kind of understanding the accounting and kind of the allocations portion of the platform. And then also we've incorporated a modeling scenario functionality to better understand how different pumping patterns across the landscape can affect groundwater levels, which informs you about different trade-offs that you might want to consider in implementing different management actions. So I'll just briefly touch on each of the components of the platform. The water usage in the platform is provided by a project called OpenET, and that's a collaborative project between EDF, the Desert Research Institute, Google Earth Engine, and NASA, and a host of other project partners to provide a platform that provides satellite-based evapotranspiration data. And this ET data is really particularly well suited for Rosedale because they're a water storage district. They bring in surface water, they recharge it under the ground, and it's primarily groundwater pumping. But in many areas, there are more complex surface water, groundwater use patterns that will need to be kind of considered when you're deciding what kind of data to use to manage or to understand your water usage within the basin. So for the next iteration of the project, we'll really be thinking about how to incorporate different data sets like water metering data and other types of data that folks might find useful. And so for the water supply information, that is, water that the water managers can input into the platform to help create a better understanding of water budgets for landowners, and also of course informs the district as well. For example, the district can set different allocations or target usages across the field or different landowner parcels, and they can define the different buckets of water that are available. And really understanding these buckets of water and what rules are associated with their use is really important to inform project actions like water trading, because there's different rules associated for how you can use and move water. So once you have a better understanding of your kind of water supply and usage, it really allows you to understand kind of your water budget and provide this information to your landowners within the district. And of course, all of this comes together to inform programs like water trading programs, which can enhance the flexibility to landowners within the basin, especially in areas where water is scarce. And all of this information really informs deeper analysis of what's going on within the basin. So once you understand water use and availability and you have different projects in place, it's really important to understand then how this water is getting used differently across the landscape. And I'll provide, when I do the live demo, I'll show some scenarios on how we're incorporating these groundwater modeling scenarios to inform decision-making under SGMA. So with that, I'm going to transition my screen sharing, and I am going to go over to a live demo. So is everyone seeing the new screen? Okay, awesome. So what we're looking at right now is a demonstration version of the platform. And so you'll see some EDF branding on the page. And this is because we've anonymized all the landowner names within the platform to protect proprietary information. And we've also anonymized all the parcel boundaries. So you can log on, anyone can get an account, and you can access the full functionality of the platform. And so I already have an account. I'm logged in as a water manager, but like I said, you can log in, you can be a water manager, you can be a landowner, and you can kind of play around with the platform. And so I'm going to go to my manager dashboard. And while the information is loading, I can log on and I can see district-wide statistics. I can toggle between acre feet or acre feet per acre. And then you can kind of see the different buckets of water that I mentioned earlier. So this is the total allocation within the district, and you can see the types of water that are available. These will most likely be defined somewhat differently across different districts or GSAs, and you can click on that question mark to see the different definitions for how that water is defined and how it can be used. And so, for example, in Rosedale, the project water is that surface water that is brought into the district and then recharged within the ground. And that is water that, when trading comes online, it will be water that is tradable. Whereas native yield is water that is used by overlying landowners, and that water likely won't be tradable. And so you can see the overarching district-wide statistics. And then if you look to the right of the screen, you'll see that in kind of graphic representation. So right now we're viewing satellite-based ET data from the OpenET project for 2021. We have through water usage through April uploaded right now. And Rosedale was one of the kind of the pilot projects of the OpenET project. So we were able to kind of get the data into this platform sooner, but it's been manual uploads, and we're working on kind of automating it through the development of different APIs. So once that happens, it'll be updated every three or so weeks, depending on the satellite passes. And so right here, you can see the water usage in the blue bars. You can see the average consumption based on all years. And we have right now in the platform OpenET data through 2017. So you can just click on that and see the different water usages through time. And then you can also see the allocation, the total district supply through the red bar. If you scroll down, I can look at all the landowners within my district. And these are funny randomly generated names. So you can have a go with some of those. And then when I look at the different landowners, you can see they have a unique account number. I can see the total allocation, how that allocation is broken up across the different types of water. And then I can also see if they've engaged in any trading. you scroll down just a little bit further, you can see all the trading activity that has taken place, and we're still looking at 2021, so you can also go back through time, and then you can see any of the active trading postings. And then scrolling down further, you have a map of the district, and you can interact with that and identifying any of the parcels or navigating there. So with that, I'll navigate to a landowner page, which has a pretty similar format, some additional functionality. And we're looking at Weeder Farms. And you can see this is my landowner page. This is the water budget. Again, you can toggle between acre feet or acre feet per acre. You can see the acres managed. You can see if you expand any of these plus signs, you can see the different types of water that exist that this person has allocated. And you can also see what water that they purchased or sold. And so I'll go over this a little bit when I show the trading functionality, but when those transactions are complete, those trades are then registered and integrated within the accounting information. So it updates how that water has changed hands. And then you can keep track of your current usage, available average annual usage. So if we look at the graph on the right, you can see that this person, they are a little under their average annual allocation. They've already sold a little bit of water, and that allocation has then been adapted. And so when you look at the different user accounts, you can see that some are more probably prone to being a buyer or a seller of water, depending on kind of what their usage and their allocation looks like. You can also go to usage by parcel and see how your usage breaks down across the different parcels through some different graphs or tabular data. You can see your account map, which shows where your parcel is, and you can interact with that and click on that. And again, the same years of data are located, of course, for each landowner as well. So those are basically the kind of landowner and water manager dashboards. And I'll quickly show you what the trading platform looks like. We don't have a ton of trades loaded in. It kind of changes because this is a demonstration platform every time I log in. But this is, I think, a prime area where we kind of heard loud and clear, let's keep it simple, straightforward, so we really understand, how we're engaging in the platform. And so basically, this is a Craigslist type platform, which really connects buyers and sellers. When working with Rosedale, we heard that the districts wanted a way to facilitate connecting buyers and sellers, but they very much wanted to stay out of the financial transaction part of the trade. So anyone can go onto the platform if you're a landowner and post a listing to buy or sell water. I can show you what one of those looks like. You can, write how much water you have for sale, the price. You can add any description in terms of I need to sell this by a certain date or willing to split it up. You can say what water this account is coming from. And once this is posted, then the buyer or seller could respond, and you're not then introduced to the other landowner until the terms of the transaction are kind of agreed upon. Once that happens, information is exchanged. You complete the financial transaction outside of the platform. Once each of the buyer and seller are satisfied with those terms, they come on, they certify the trade within the district, and then that gets incorporated into the trading functionality. And then on the trading page, this is kind of optional based on kind of district or GSA preferences. You could also aggregate data and show different market metrics if you wanted to give people kind of an aggregated idea, average idea of what, the price of water is or how many trades are occurring. And so with that, the last functionality I'll share with you is the kind of groundwater modeling decision support tool that we're integrating within the platform. And then we're working to integrate an open source version of that into the platform to make it more accessible. And so right now what you're looking at is a model. It's basically informed by the ModFlow model, which is showing how a buyer and seller are engaging in a trade, and it's showing the implication of groundwater level changes. So I think this trade is representing a 600 acre foot trade. The parcel in blue is the seller, so they're no longer pumping water. So those groundwater levels around the pumping location are rising. And the parcel in red is the buyer of water. And so that is the pump that is now pumping water. And you can see through time, I'm not sure why my time bar is in the middle of my graph, but you can see how those groundwater levels change over time. And what for this scenario, we've mapped a nearby disadvantaged community as well as groundwater domestic well locations in green. And so you can better understand how, if this trade moves forward, the implications for groundwater level changes. And of course, this is one trade and it's a scenario, right? But you can better understand these types of scenarios to one, inform trading rules, but then also better understand collective implications of multiple trades through time, and then use those to evaluate such programs moving forward. And then the other scenario I'll briefly just share with you is a managed recharge scenario. And so with this scenario, we've uploaded or kind of integrated the Rosedale recharge basins, and the district is deciding where they want to recharge a bucket of water. And so they can either recharge in the western recharge basins or in the eastern recharge basins. We've also mapped some water quality considerations in addition to the disadvantaged community and the domestic drinking water well locations. And in this case, we're mapping arsenic. And obviously, this is a very simplistic scenario, similar to the one I showed you before, because we're only showing you some considerations, right? And these trade-offs can get really complex. But this can start to show you if you have, arsenic contamination, sometimes dilution is good and sometimes it's not good, depending on which kind of, constituent you're looking at. But then you can decide that maybe if I recharge in the eastern basin, the map on the right, you can see that maybe that could help with dilution. You're kind of nearby some of those contamination areas in the drinking water well locations. So lots of different things you can play around with. And I think one of the benefits of some of this work is that people can visualize these scenarios. So as you think about different management actions, people can understand how their different needs and concerns are being taken into account, and you can have those conversations with stakeholder groups. So with that, I'm going to transition back to the presentation. If I can find out where it is. And I'm going to briefly just talk about some of the functionality moving forward that we hope to build out. And so as Tara briefly mentioned at the beginning, we're really excited for the next iteration of this work, and working with the California Water Data Consortium, the Department of Water Resources, and the State Water Resources Control Board, as well as local partners, to really inform how we scale this work moving forward, to make this open source accounting platform an available tool that is optional for people who might want to use it within their district or within their DSA. And as I mentioned, the goal really is to work with different water managers, local stakeholder groups, academic, other NGO groups, to really inform what features of the platform we focus on developing out. We're ultimately not going to be the ones using the platform, so we want to work with folks who are going to be using the platform to learn what functionality best meets their need and what kind of functionality best meets the largest number of potential users. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that, accounting systems are not new. There's a lot of groups within California that have been thinking about accounting for a really long time. We'll hear from some of those folks today. There's also different groups who are working to implement an accounting system right now. We see a real opportunity to learn from others, to share the work that we're doing, to collaborate, to not reinvent the wheel, but to see how we can be additive in this process. So as we work forward to build out the functionality of the platform, we'll really be focusing on a couple of core areas. We'll be working on the integration of additional data inputs, for example, supporting the integration of meter data. We'll be expanding the accounting functionality within the platform, including the integration of water level data. We'll also, as I mentioned, be incorporating the open source version of the scenario planning tool to help water managers and other stakeholder groups better understand implications or kind of benefits from different project actions. And then we'll also be working really closely with the California Water Data Consortium in their work to co-develop common co-developed groundwater data standards to be used in the platform. It's really, I think, important to ensure that the platform is compatible with other efforts that are ongoing right now, such as, the state's SGMA portal, and the board's GEARS platform that they'll be using, the groundwater extraction annual reporting system moving forward. So with that, my last slide really touches on the importance of open source. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but what does that actually mean, and why is it important, and why should we care? And when we first kicked off the project, we recognized that the accounting platform and the trading platform that we developed in Rosedale's one district, but under SGMA especially, there's just huge opportunities and a real need to coordinate and collaborate across these smaller political boundaries and really at the basin scale. So our hope with the platform was really that the work that we did in Rosedale could be used by other users, right? You wouldn't have to start from ground zero. You can really start with the work that's been done in Rosedale and kind of adapt it to meet different needs. So when we say open source, there are no license fees, no vendor lock-in, no subscription fees. You can go download the code and work with whichever partners you want to kind of take the platform and tailor it and scale it based on your local needs. And I think when we think about open source, there's a real opportunity to collectively contribute to the open source kind of environment, right? So the work that we have done in Rosedale is available. The additional functionality that we are going to do will be back into the open source pool. And as other users take advantage of perhaps the platform, they can contribute the innovations that they develop in the platform and make that functionality useful to other users. So there's just a real opportunity to, I think, collectively kind of improve the platform over time to help meet different needs and really think about how such a resource could scale across different boundaries to really inform solid, sound decision-making as we move forward in managing increasingly scarce and variable water resources in California. So with that, I want to check, is Tara back on yet?
I am
Okay.
here.
Awesome.
Fingers crossed that I stay here. Apologies for that.
Okay, perfect. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Tara, and she is going to introduce our amazing speakers that we have today. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Christina. That was great. Apologies for technical difficulties on my end, and really excited to introduce our fantastic group of speakers who are advisors and partners on this project. So now you've sort of had an overview of the platform, and so now we're going to transition to hear from representatives from state and local agencies about why they're excited about the project and some of the opportunities that they see as the platform develops. And so I'll just briefly introduce all of our speakers now, and then request that each of them pass on to the subsequent speaker. I wanted to also note before I hand things over is that we will not be stopping for questions after each of those presentations. But as Amanda pointed out in the chat, we are collecting all of your questions. We're hoping to have time for a short Q&A at the end. Either way, we will be providing you with contact information so that if you do have questions that you weren't able to get answers to today, you can either reach out to myself, Christina, or other members of the team. And then also there will be this sort of long process of working groups and the like, where we will be grappling with many of the questions that many of you are raising with over the course of the project. But please continue to just drop any questions and or ideas that you have for the project into the chat. We are collecting those and we'll keep track of them. So with that, I'm excited to introduce our speakers. Our first speaker is Stephen Springhorn, Acting Deputy Director of Groundwater Management with the Department of Water Resources. He will be handing things off to Eric Ekdahl, Deputy Director, the Division of Water Rights with State Water Resources Control Board. We're then going to hear from Marcus Nygren, who is a civil engineer with Rosedale Rio Bravo Water Storage District. And then we'll hear from Patricia Poirier, Executive Director of the Kern Groundwater Authority. And then finally, we'll hear from Max Stevenson, Assistant General Manager at Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. And I just want to point out, as we were planning this meeting, that we had some discussion as to who had the most syllables in their district's name. And I think Max just edged Marcus out. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to our speakers and to Stephen.
All right, well, thank you, Tara, and thank you, Christina, for that great overview, and the rest of my fellow panel members for being involved in this event. And so as mentioned, my name is Stephen Springhorn. I'm the Acting Deputy Director for Statewide Groundwater Management at DWR, and just wanted to provide some quick highlights of why we're excited to be part of this and supporting this new partnership. And we really are really encouraged by being able to work with Eric and his team within the state board, and then with the Data Consortium, EDF, and local entities like Rosedale, who's been leading the charge on this, and also others, other local agencies and entities that are really tackling these tough challenges that are out there. And so, you know, just with the tough challenges, one thing that comes to mind is that it's efforts like this that are really important, that we're able to compile all of the sort of brightest minds and pool resources across the SGMA community to help tackle these tough challenges or complex parts of SGMA, like water budgeting and accounting. And so I think this example, this effort really shows that there's a broad coalition coming together of diverse entities that are committed to open source and collaborative and engaging solutions, which we at the department really are encouraging. So that's one area that we're excited, and it really, this effort helps us and it helps the state support other higher level initiatives like the governor's water resilience portfolio and the administration's efforts to really be advancing actions under that portfolio, which this effort definitely does. And then there's no question that this effort helps everyone involved in SGMA with this complex topic of water budgeting and accounting, which is a fundamental part of the law and the groundwater sustainability plans that have been created, that are still being developed and are being implemented right now. So really, this is very timely. And again, that's why we're very excited to be partnering and providing support for this, because these types of tough decisions are having to be made now, and having tools available, guidance and discussions around this is really in line with our assistance role at the department, trying to put those relevant, timely tools in your hands to make these informed decisions that are required and needed to reach sustainability. And as Christina was mentioning already earlier on, a couple related points. I just want to highlight that, you know, with this effort, it really is voluntary from department's perspective. It's an optional tool, but as we can collaborate and work towards making more of these tools available, known, and make them available at low to no cost, which is really important for the long-term viability of efforts like this, because SGMA, as we know, is a long-term initiative and important to keep it going, and having tools and assistance to be there for the long haul. And so I think with that, we know that each basin also is going to be coming at this in a different way. So as we know, SGMA is about local control, local flexibility within this overall statewide framework. And each basin has their own path through SGMA within this framework. And so where this tool is intriguing for us is, as mentioned already, that again, it's voluntary, but it's flexible and scalable to meet the needs of the GSAs and the basin community or stakeholders that are part of this management moving forward. So that's a really key point for us too. And then finally, in closing, I just want to highlight that we are definitely committed to this effort to support it as best we can. That's we, as in our Sacramento headquarters office of SGMA, but also the region offices that are across the state that do a tremendous amount of work and engagement within basins. So we have our regional offices in Red Bluff, West Sacramento, Fresno, and Glendale. And there's region office staff on the call right now. And so I would just really encourage anyone and everyone to provide us feedback on how you see DWR best providing assistance, tools, and continuation of those tools, and what's most needed to make the biggest impact for your sustainability and your plan implementation. So feel free to reach out to our region office contacts, reach out to us in Sacramento, and again, just really excited to be part of this great effort. So I'll turn it over to my colleague, Eric Ekdahl.
Thanks, Stephen. That's a fantastic overview. And I'm going to echo a lot of what Stephen has just said. The State Water Board is interested in this whole approach and the concept of kind of collaboratively looking at how we can better manage groundwater data, not from a regulatory perspective, but from the experience that was born out of some of the steps we took early on when SGMA was just passed in early 2015, 16, 17. We were confronted with the issue of, what happens if, say, a basin isn't successful and there is some level of state intervention. And we looked at what the requirements would need us to do. And we noted that we need some sort of data management system of our own in the event that the state board did play that kind of intervention role. And it was a really strange construct in the sense that we had to build a system, and then we also had to hope that we'd never use it, because ideally we'd never be in that intervention role. And so that's a tough thing to take to the California Department of Technology and say, we need money to do this, and we need to build a system that hopefully no one was ever going to employ. But we went through some of the business practices steps. We went through some of the identification, what are the tools and the data sets that we might need. And what we found was that it's really hard. And I'm sure that many of you know that already, but it's really difficult. It's expensive, it's time consuming. And after about 5 years, we did eventually produce something that we call GEARS, the Groundwater Extraction Analysis and Reporting System. And we've demoed that in a couple of places. And we started getting feedback from GSAs and from other kind of groundwater pumpers. Hey, this would be a really helpful tool to have available. And at about the same time, EDF unveiled their early beta of their tool. And we kind of said, man, this sure seems like a helpful kind of tool that could be applicable for everybody. And it really started to kind of engage in these conversations going forward, thinking what could be and what if, and what would be helpful for GSAs going forward based on this experience that we've just had over the last 5 years. And what we think is possible is a number of things: partnerships between GSAs. One of the concerns I think that we have, not again from a regulatory perspective, but from a integration and kind of ability for GSAs to work together, is what happens if there's 200 plus GSAs, each using their own data platform, their own kind of accounting metrics. There's a number of issues that immediately jump to mind. Cost of compliance will rocket upwards. So there's immense cost savings where there's a more integrated approach, if there's an open access approach. And if everyone's kind of fragmented, if everyone's using different standards, it's going to limit the ability of those local entities to develop truly integrated markets at the local level. If everyone is unable to do that data mapping and overlap the data, overlap who's pumping and what it means for the basin and the water budgets as a whole, then it's going to be very difficult to really build up from anything other than the GSA scale. And so with that in mind, we've been fully supportive of the effort going forward, and we will continue to be supportive. We have a number of staff also that I think are attending: Brent Vanderberg, Sarah Sugar, Natalie Stork, that manage the board's SGMA team. And we're also happy to participate and really look forward to what we can do working collaboratively in a non-regulatory setting to build out something that's truly useful for GSAs going forward. And so with that, before we go into our next panelist, we wanted to add one more question. And please type your answer into the chat. So we're not going to formally respond to each one of these, but we will track the answers, we'll compile them, and it will be part of the information kind of going forward. And the question is, what data sets should the state prioritize to support this effort moving forward? So if you have ideas or thoughts on what those should be, please type them into the chat, hit return, and I'll read the question one more time. Oh, someone actually already typed it in there. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Marcus.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marcus. I'm the engineer tech here at Rosedale Rio Bravo. I've kind of been in charge of implementing and managing the accounting platform. So I guess the story for Rosedale starts back a little bit, and our old general manager, who was kind of a visionary, and he really excelled at finding new opportunities and futuristic sort of type stuff for the district. His name was Eric. It was really him that brought us in here, and he's the one that partnered up with a lot of these people. And it did seem silly back then, but Eric's vision wasn't just about our district. It was about our district, our neighbor's district, the entire Kern subbasin, and even beyond that as well. And so, from the beginning, I think he really saw the importance of accurate water accounting and how big that was going to be, especially in Kern subbasin, where we talked about accounting and tracking your water and all that for weeks while we were having Sigma discussions. So and then I think he also knew that an open source option would appeal to other districts, and it was easily scalable because it was free. The next thing I want to say about that is the district kind of knew we were going to be the guinea pig going forward for an accounting platform. And, while the OpenET side was open source and free, developing a platform customizable to your district was not at all free, and it was kind of expensive. And you hear it all the time in engineering, and I know Christina already said it, is you don't want to reinvent the wheel. And so Rosedale has sort of created the wheel, and we hope other districts, while it won't be the exact same wheel, it will be a similar wheel. Right now, the value that it provides to Rosedale, it's free, it's publicly available to any other districts. Once the API is in, as Christina said, it'll be automatically integrating OpenET data into the platform. The current status, and I saw a few questions about this in the question bar, it's live, up and running, but the real benefit of it for the district is to give the landowners more knowledge, the power and the knowledge in their hands. And so every district has their own milestones and Sigma goals, but for example, for our white landowners, it's a straight line reduction on their pumping demand. And so we're not saying, oh, you went over this year. We're doing it in 5-year intervals. And so the accounting platform is very important because it's important for them to see where they're at after 2020, 2021, where they're at after 2023, where they're at after 2024. Can they keep pumping, and can they keep farming in 2024? Are they going to need to fallow a year? And that also, leads back to trading and the functionality of that going forward. Extremely excited about the future and the engagement with our in-district landowners and our white landowners, because this stuff is not going away. And if anything, this stuff's getting more and more important and becoming more and more of this journey we call Sigma. So the platform's launch, we've had a few difficulties. Christina's knocked on this before, but you learn way more about your own Sigma document and how you've written that than I would have expected. I developed it with our old general manager, and then I had to dive back into our Sigma document at least 3 times and change certain functionalities of the platform. And Sitka, who was our platform developer, was great about that, and they made a lot of customizable features where, oh shoot, well, we can't have precip, a live running 20-year average for white lands and then have an average, just a set stone average for district lands. And so there's a lot of discrepancies that we had to kind of go back and forth and figure out, what is fair for both white lands and for in-district lands. right now we're up over 80 users. We're a pretty small district, so that's pretty good for us. And there's still a lot of interest in it going forward. We had a stakeholder meeting yesterday, and it's kind of one of those things where you constantly need feedback from landowners. What is useful to you guys? What is useful going forward? What's going to be beneficial, and helping us meet our SGMA milestones as well. And so something we learned was just that going forward, it's not about reinventing the wheel, and we want other districts to try it out, and especially because accounting is so big in SGMA, and it's not going anywhere. And so that's all I got. And next up, we've got Patty, who's the fearless leader of the Kern County sub-basin, and I'm sure she's got a lot to say. So thank you, guys.
I wouldn't say fearless, but okay. I'll ask these guys at DWR once I get our comments from our GSPs in the basin as whether or not I'm fearless or not. But thanks so much, Tara and Christina, for the opportunity to participate in this workshop. And I know, Christina, you and I have been talking about this platform from the onset and how the Kern Basin, which is probably one of the most complex basins under SGMA, how could we benefit from this type of accounting platform? I, as the point of contact for the basin, feel that this platform is valuable in so many ways. I have to have the right time. It has to be in a time sequence for it to be embraced. So right now, the basin is developing what we call our data management system for the entire basin. And that DMS, as we call it here, it is more of a tool. It is not just a data system that just holds data and then we send it up to DWR. This is going to be a data system where our local landowners, our stakeholders can actually get onto the system, look at water levels, look at wells, really have an opportunity to understand where the water levels are, where they're farming or where they're living, so that they can be more of a proactive approach to things instead of a reactive approach to this. And I just see that once we get that data management system up and running, which I'm hoping will happen sometime this year, hopefully by October, that this platform is like an extension of the data management system, where that we can then give these stakeholders and landowners the information they need in terms of, okay, they're getting ready to farm 160 acres. Water levels around that 160 acres are sitting here. This is my water accounting number. This is what I have available in this district right now today in order to accommodate that 160 acres. I think that gives stakeholders, landowners, an opportunity to make better decisions. It allows everybody to understand where and how the water is being managed in the basin. And I think it goes to the long term of SGMA. SGMA is about how well do we manage water in the activities of the basin. So I'm looking at this as an opportunity, and no, I do not want to reinvent the wheel. So this is a great way of not having to do that. Trust me, the DMS is enough problems as it is. But to allow the connection of the DMS with this platform, and I look at it, both of them, as a tool to educate, to assist in stakeholders, landowners, districts, the public on how we're doing in terms of meeting the requirements of SGMA. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is when we look at this, I see a future for it. It's just in our time frame, every basin is in a different area in their SGMA implementation. And so I just see that it's, you know, as Rosedale began to use it, Eric and I used to have many conversations on the platform itself as well, and how best to roll it out to the entire basin as a whole. And so what we figured first is we need to do the data management system first, and then go to the accounting platform. But on top of all of this basin needs to understand its native yield. And so that is also what we as a basin have to tackle as well. So it's kind of looking at it from a holistic basin. Where do we need to go? So I'm grateful that we have local control under SGMA, and that it allows us to maneuver the basins best for the basin and the activities in the basin. And I see this tool as part of the puzzle that needs to fit into the solutions as we move forward. So again, we as a basin have a long way to go. Thank God we have, 19 more years to get there. And so that in that process, we have the right tools that will take us through that whole process. And I see that as part of this, the accounting platform. As far as when we will get to trading, and the opportunity to do that, the flexibility, which I know landowners in this basin are looking forward to that. That native yield study will tell us a lot about the hydrology of the basin, which will then assist us to see how can we best do that without triggering an undesirable result. So there's a lot of layers that have to happen as we move forward. So, and again, I appreciate and thank you all for the opportunity to participate. And I guess I'm going to hand it off now to Max.
Thanks, Patty. I'm Max Stevenson with Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. Can you guys hear me? Our name is long, but our mission is strong. Welcome to my home office. It's a water-themed home office. I'm back here in the bathroom, but yeah. So I'm going to tell the Yolo County story about shared databases for monitoring groundwater. Back in 2004, we had a group. Well, first of all, Yolo County is in the Sacramento Valley. Sacramento Valley, we have a lot more water than down south. So our basin is sustainable. We're not in overdraft, and we want to use these data management programs and SGMA to keep that sustainable, to keep what we have. And things can change. Long-term droughts, changes in pumping, expanded well development. So what we did started in 2004. We had the YOLO Groundwater Resources Association. That was 11 water agencies in Yolo County got together and said, got a grant from DWR to develop a coordinated groundwater database for groundwater levels. We spent maybe $90,000 to $180,000 a year after it was developed for maintenance and upkeep, and no one really had the appetite for that type of a program. And that's like a whole person or maybe two working at your agency just for a data program. But when you divide by 10 or 15, you're looking at $5,000 or $8,000, and that's a year. And that's a bargain for a small city or UC Davis or whoever is a partner in the program. So this economy of scale is true. Wow. So fast forward to today with SGMA, the Water Resources Association is moving to the side. Our GSA, our Groundwater Sustainability Agency, is coming in. We have 25 members for that agency. So now we're splitting up the costs 25 ways, even better. You can get these economies of scale in multiple ways. For example, the state could develop software for everyone and hand it down or manage it at a state level. And that would be a tremendous economy of scale, cheaper for everyone. But you're putting all your eggs in one basket. What if there's budget changes at the state level or things that happen politically that change the management of the database? When you have a distributed open source type platform with each person in control or each entity in control, you have a community of data users that if one or two go away or go bankrupt or change their priorities, you still have this vibrant group providing support and ongoing improvements and sharing. So I really think that the community, the data user community development of this project is really where the importance is. I mean, we need the data, of course, too, but to support that data, having this user group that has a platform for engaging and for working on projects together, such as sharing an open source platform like this, I'm very supportive. I think this is definitely the way to go. And I'll pass it on to Tara. I think we've got another poll.
Yes, thank you all so much. Wonderful to hear all your thoughts and the timing, as well as both, challenges and opportunities. And so really excited for this to be an ongoing conversation moving forward. And so we've heard a lot from both Christina and I, as well as our speakers. And so we'd love to hear a little bit from you. So we're going to go ahead and launch our next poll here, which asks, how does your water agency account for water use and availability? And the first response is, we don't track this. Second is, we have a water accounting tracking system, either through Excel or a similar type tool. Or third is, we have a water accounting platform, maybe slightly more formal than an Excel sheet or the like. And then I'm going to just talk through 4 and 5 because the wording is fairly subtle, but the premise being that 4 is, we are not tracking, but we are currently developing a water accounting platform, while 5 says we are not tracking, but we are considering developing a water accounting platform. And then finally, I'm cognizant that these scenarios, number one, will not capture the breadth of experiences out there, and they are often mutually exclusive. And so just go ahead and either pick the response that best fits, or choose other and drop your situation, add just a little bit in the chat on your current situation. And I'm just going to give just a couple more seconds. I see quite a few responses. And then we'll go ahead and end the poll in just a second here. All right. So we have about 30% who have responded.
And for the 3 of you who've picked other, feel free to describe what that means in the chat.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. All right. So we have quite a breadth of different responses here. It looks like many of you, 30%, have a water accounting system similar to Excel or the like. 20% have an existing water accounting platform. And then sort of split between those who are currently developing or considering developing a water accounting platform. So this is really helpful. Really appreciate you all sharing that feedback. And part of the reason for us is it's really important to hear, to ensure that as we move forward with this, we're really maximizing benefit and ensuring compatibility with existing data management systems, as well as other water accounting platforms out there. Again, our goal here is really to be additive. And so it's fantastic. So thank you all. And there, sorry, I just hit share the results now. I'm going to go ahead and transition. So we've talked a lot at this point in time about our vision, some of the potential opportunities. And so now I just want to go ahead and talk a little bit about project implementation, as well as ways for you to engage in this process. So I'm going to just share my screen. Okay. And hopefully you guys can see that. Great.
Looks good.
Thank you. All right. So we've talked about, and so I'm going to start with project implementation. Right now we are in the process, or we're currently scoping this project as 3 phases. Phase 1, we are really kicking off here today, and will span this calendar year and into 2022. The main goal during this phase is to expand platform functionality and accessibility, and that'll be done through, 1, the development of technical infrastructure really to support platform scaling, as well as the integration of statewide data sets, including groundwater elevations. We'll also be working with pilot basins to understand different local conditions and integrate data sets that weren't included in this first iteration of the platform. And I'll talk just a little bit more about that in a second. And then finally, really focused on developing technical infrastructure to support scenario planning through model integration. So Christina talked a little bit about existing functionality there. At this point, that is happening manually. And so our goal is to have that to be integrated into the platform seamlessly and allow users to work with both the ModFlow model code as well as with the state's IWFM model code. So the second phase of the project will begin later this year and extend for a year to 18 months. The main focus during this phase will be continuing to work with state and local agencies as well as stakeholder groups to continue tailoring the platform to meet local needs. It'll focus on building platform functionalities that are likely to meet the greatest needs for GSAs moving forward. And we'll talk about how some of those, excuse me, decisions will be made. Continuing to integrate data sets from pilot basins. And I alluded to this earlier, but we recognize that working with Rosedale Rio Bravo didn't require sort of the range of data sets that we're going to need to be thinking about moving forward. And so it's really going to require us to tackle a lot of pretty significant technical requirements as we integrate different data sets from other localities. And so we're really committed to working with these pilot basins through our working groups to jointly tackle these technical challenges moving forward. And so this is where I think this partnership is particularly exciting. And then developing workflows to facilitate local data integration. And then finally continuing to expand this integration of scenario planning functionality. And I mentioned that we'll be right now, the tool that has been developed with Olson out of Nebraska currently interfaces with ModFlow, but we will be looking to expand that such that those who are working with the IWFM model will also be able to integrate those into the platform. And then the third phase of the project will focus again on continuing to integrate those hydrologic models, but then really build out sort of the scenario planning components of them to allow for agencies to use those models to really understand how different management actions might impact groundwater levels or other hydrologic components within the basin. And so, for example, if we want to look at recharge basins, and where we want to encourage recharge in order to avoid drying of domestic wells, or in one of the other scenarios that Christina outlined is if there are water quality issues in a specific area of the basin, how might that be impacted by some of the management actions currently being considered within our district. And then the other component is really starting to build out the existing water trading module to make it available to agencies who choose to use that. And I think importantly, as part of the Rosedale Rio Bravo water storage pilot project has demonstrated, is that we can't just jump right into water markets, that we really need to have sufficient high quality data that can serve as the foundation for a well-developed water market. And so the first two phases of our platform really focus on building out the water accounting portion of the platform, which will serve as the foundation for that, for local agencies and stakeholders to ensure that they have the information to really develop those robust water trading markets that protect communities, the economy, and the environment. And this work will also be supported by an effort that is currently taking place at the California Water Commission that just kicked off. And this is a process to frame state considerations around how to shape well-managed groundwater trading programs. So the commission's work will focus on public workshops that will occur at regularly scheduled commission meetings to solicit input about developing these groundwater training programs to ensure that there are protections for vulnerable users and stakeholders. And by facilitating this sort of more robust and inclusive public discussion on groundwater trading, the commission will really be supporting the action 3.6 under the water resilience portfolio. So that will sort of complement the work that we're doing here. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about stakeholder engagement. We really see this as a collective and iterative process. And so as Christina discussed, we really want this effort. We want to ensure that we're sharing that our lessons learned, learning from all of you and having you help shape the platform moving forward, and that we're really being additive to existing efforts out there. And I think Patty provided a great example of how she sees that playing out moving forward. And so the way that we see sort of achieving, providing opportunities for all of you to either learn more about the platform as it evolves or becoming involved are through sort of three areas. The first is through public meetings like this one, which we'll be hosting on an ongoing basis throughout the life cycle of the project. So if you are interested in staying tuned, please ensure that you're signed up for the consortium's listserv to receive information on these events. And Amanda will drop our website into the chat. We're also going to be hosting quarterly working group meetings. There will be 3 of these. One will be advisory that will support and guide broad platform development decisions. A technical working group to support technical decisions related to platform development, data integration, as well as just some of the technical policy questions that will need to be grappled with. And then a platform scaling working group to inform platform development, functionality, and scenario planning moving forward. And then finally, if you want to learn more about the platform and its evolution throughout the course of the project, or you have questions or you want to provide feedback, we are more than happy to please drop us a line. Happy to come and chat with you. You can request briefings, demos, just, share your thoughts with us. That's how this vision has evolved to this point. And so we really rely on all of you to share your ideas and feedback moving forward. So with that, I'm going to pause there. It looks like we have a few minutes to take a few questions. So we had a few questions dropped into the chat, and I'll kick things off by, I'm going to just stop sharing my screen here. 1 second. Maybe if it lets me do that, I'll stop sharing. There we go. So the first question I wanted to circle back to was asked by Lauren Steely. And she asked, how did Rosario Rio Bravo build consensus around using remote sensing based evapotranspiration for water budgeting? And have any of the growers contested the use of OpenET data? And so I wanted to just give both Christina as well as Marcus a chance to respond to that question. And then please go ahead and drop other questions that you have in the chat, and we can answer those. We'll take time to answer a few of those before ending the meeting.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the first part is, how did RRB build consensus around using remote sense-based ET data for water budgeting? Well, ET is different than a flow meter on a pump. And so ET includes the transpiration that's coming off the leaves. It includes the evaporation off the soil. So ET's kind of been accepted, I guess, throughout as an accurate way to monitor how much water is being used. But to this day, Rosedale is not 100% set on OpenET. There's a lot of analyzing and comparisons that we want to do before we commit to OpenET 100%. And then the next part of your question is, have any of the growers contested OpenET? Well, so right now we're not implementing a water charge or anything that based on the platform. And so right now it's just for the landowners to have the knowledge. And one of our management actions as we go to 2024, 2025 is a water charge. And yes, there is going to be growers that can test OpenET data. There's going to be growers that can test any data. And so it's sort of one of those things where, you got to draw the line somewhere and stick to it. But again, there is so much customization in the platform that, if a guy comes in with good data and the OpenET, just looks totally funked out, we do have the option to override it. So hoping that doesn't come into play too much, but there's going to be some cases.
Yeah, that was great, Marcus. And I'll just add that I think, you know, in looking at the water data that can be implemented into the platform, I think there's just a huge need to build trust and kind of support and buy into kind of how those data are incorporated and accounted for and used to make decision making. And I think this is a good opportunity to bring groups together to kind of talk about what that looks like beyond individual kind of district boundaries and more across the basin scale and kind of coordinate on accounting moving forward. So I don't think in terms of the platform, OpenET is one option we're really excited about, but I think it's also ultimately about kind of what users buy into and want and trust moving forward. And that's where we're really going to be kind of focusing on building out a different functionality, incorporating different data types into the platform moving forward. So we'd like to hear from you in terms of what you would like those kind of pathways and data to look like. And we'll be working, you know, that'll be one of the topics that we dive into really early on in the working groups. Okay, so maybe let's move on to the second question. I think there was a question about trading rules. I don't know if I have it. Tara, do you have it up in front of you?
Yeah, I can. This was a question from Derek Williams. He asked, are there rules, how do you set rules about, or are there rules around how far a buyer and seller need to be from one another? And so I don't know if you wanted to respond to that, Christina or Marcus.
Yeah, I could take a first shot, and then Marcus, I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts from Rosedale's perspective. But I think in terms of the trading rules, those are, I think, very locally decided, you know, pathways forward, right? So what is your local context? Who are your users? Like, how do you need to work to ensure protections? And I think that's coming together on deciding what those trading rules what they need to look like. And that's why we're so excited about the kind of groundwater modeling decision support tool, because I think it helps informs what those rules maybe should look like, both in designing the rules, but then also being able to evaluate trades or kind of management actions through time in terms of implications for groundwater levels. And so perhaps there's opportunities to set, you know, different thresholds that can kind of, you know, put a warning or a flag if groundwater levels get to a certain point. But I think it's very much a part of the customization in terms of being able to account for those different types of rules, which is very possible within kind of the platform and the trading system moving forward. Marcus, I don't know if you had any additional thoughts.
I mean, you got most of it. Right now, we have landowners that are in our district, and then they're in other districts as well. And so, obviously, for obvious reasons, we don't allow them to move that water over to a neighboring district. And I don't know about that going forward. I don't know if, you know, maybe we get more collective as neighboring water districts and stuff, and we start allowing that. But right now, as far as within the district, it's not a big deal whether you're all the way on the west side and the guy you're trying to trade with is in the middle. It's not a huge deal, but yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's right. And I think in terms of the local context, right, there are some places in terms of the accounting that if you want to be able to trade outside of more narrow boundaries, you really need to understand what those kind of implications are and have accounting systems that then support that foundation. Because I think sometimes the benefits of trade can be recognized, you know, maybe across, for example, the borders of Rosedale, right? We're not necessarily talking about out of basin trades here, but kind of more local. And so what are those benefits, or what are the what areas do we need to ensure protections, and how can we account for flexibility? And I think these are very much local decisions that need to be, you know, people need to come together on and agree to the rules and kind of what the goals you're working towards are. And then I think develop trading rules that make that happen.
I will add one more thing. It's all specific to that individual water district's GSP, which is their groundwater sustainability plan. And so different districts might have different rules, but that's Rosedale's.
Awesome. And then I think I saw a question in here from Ruth. And I don't know, Tara, if that's the same question.
Yeah.
That you were looking at. And the question was, can farmers who are not landowners and are renting land access the accounting tool to see the groundwater predictions for the region? And so that's a really good question. And I think this question really kind of illustrates where we are in our thinking in terms of moving forward with the platform. And so right now, the platform as it's currently developed is kind of a GSA district-based tool that kind of facilitates, decision making at the local level, maybe through the use of the scenario planning tool. And I think there's a lot of value for the scenario planning tool and better understanding groundwater levels and kind of budgets at a much broader scale. And so the thinking right now is, what is it like, how can we move forward to provide broader access to some of these decision support tools, which are learning tools and education tools and buy-in tools as well. And so we're going to be really working hard to kind of either within the individual kind of GSA accounting systems to figure out what functionality can we make more broadly available to different stakeholder groups, or maybe what decision support tools such as the modeling tool can we make available across the state. And I think part of that depends on budget, part of that depends on the need. There's lots of different factors that come into not but it's definitely something top of mind that we want these resources to be accessible broadly to diverse users across California, and not just for one targeted group. So Tara, you might, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but really good question.
Yeah, no, I would just say that this is something that the project team has really been grappling with and really trying to think through what that looks like. And I think we heard from Marcus that the tool already has been so valuable within Rosedale Rio Bravo as an outreach tool, and really helps landowners understand how the water is currently being used and the implications of management actions moving forward. And so it's important that that's communicated not just to landowners, but who own that land, but to those who are using it and the community more broadly. And so we're really thinking through what that all looks like, as well as sort of the technical requirements surrounding it, because we also realize that there are data that will be shared within that management level that people might not be comfortable sharing outside of the district, but it doesn't mean that we can't aggregate. And so we're just really trying to think through those challenges. So love having these questions, because I think, as we've mentioned, we want to make sure that this really works for a broad variety of stakeholders, and that it is a useful both decision-making tool as well as outreach tool moving forward.
And Tara, I'll paint maybe just a finer point on that. I think we kind of answered the question broadly, but in terms of the current functionality with the platform, the owners can also grant access to kind of the accounting system to anyone, within the system. So if they rent, someone's renting the land, the landowner could grant access to the system to that landowner to kind of manage. And so I think that also comes into play in terms of, you might have multiple people kind of managing an account. And I think that's kind of a decision that the local landowner needs to make. But I think, Ruth, perhaps your question was broader than that. And that's kind of the first way we tried to tackle it in terms of, the scenario planning tool and better understanding kind of accounting and budget. So yeah, definitely top of mind.
Yeah, and I think that ties well into a question that Andrew Edstrom asked, which said, would scenarios ever be available at the grower level? Meaning, could a grower see the impact of trades that they want to engage in? And so again, none of these decisions, I would say, have been made yet. This is certainly something that we are thinking through. And, I think there are sort of technical constraints that we need to think through, as well as how functionally does that work in terms of ensuring protections of data that certain users feel like they that are going to be necessary, but still ensuring that we're making information and available that allow stakeholders who are maybe a little bit outside to engage in these processes. So Christina, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, or others, other speakers wanted to add to that.
I'll just say that I think SGMA is just giving us this amazing opportunity to better understand kind of water and management through like this onset of data. And I think that can really help inform decisions. So I think there is going to be this onset of publicly available data that was not available before that can really help through the scenario planning tool. And I think the goal is, in thinking about different stakeholder groups, I think very much like as we think about making that tool broadly accessible, more broadly, landowners are kind of top of mind in that category, as well as different kind of interest group, ensuring environmental protections, community protections, but also I think landowner, right? I think districts or water agencies have very much managed to their individual boundaries, but that's not necessarily how aquifers operate. And understanding what those larger implications across boundaries is really important for everyone, and it just informs decision making moving forward. So yeah, I think it's exciting. We don't have all the answers yet, but we're kind of working towards it, and that's why we have this great group of folks advising us.
Great.
I don't
All
know
right.
any more questions. We can always end a little bit early if there's no questions. And then I don't know, Tara, if you want to put up or the last slide, it just shares some of our contact information, but we're always, you know, as Tara mentioned, just want to reiterate, if you know, someone that you wish would have seen this, of course, the recording will be up, but we are always happy to have one-on-one conversations or conversations with smaller groups. And if you're interested in learning more or getting involved, please reach out to us. Tara just put up opportunities to learn more. We created a demo site, which I demoed today. We also have a story map, and then the kind of the open source code. And then this is our contact information as well. And then Tara, all this will be up on the Water Data Consortium's website as well. So with that, anything else to add, or do we want to officially?
No, this is great. Yeah, thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you for all of us, to all of you for attending. Yeah, excited to hear from you moving forward.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, especially to our speakers and your time. And thank you, everyone. We look forward to continuing the conversation. So take care.